April and Tyler Roberts, thank you so much for joining us on behalf of NOMOS Marketing. Tell us about yourself. It's fun having two people here. First of all, we usually have one person, so this is awesome. So hopefully it'll make it even easier to talk over each other, and so it'll be perfect.
Well, we do everything together, so I feel like this is just kind of part of it.
Got it. Just got to go, always together. In fact, that's when the video goes off, you're like, ugh, together again. But now you're smiling and look happy, so that's good.
Right.
We're generally pretty happy. So
Good.
Yeah, we
That's
try.
good.
Um,
Good. If we need to get into, do you spend too much time together? We can do that in the second half of the recording if that works.
yeah, I mean, we possibly may be doing that, but we are husband and wife and also business partners, which is why we say we spend a ton of time together. So NOMOS Marketing is a full service legal marketing agency.
yeah, and really we're built on the premise of making the law more accessible and more approachable, and what we say ultimately more human. And really what that means is letting our client's personality really show through, so that way whatever piece of marketing that we're working on, a potential client can get to know that attorney, and they're going to feel more comfortable making a phone call. I think especially today, and I think we're going to talk about COVID a little bit today, it's really difficult to form those relationships just through one phone call or through a couple text messages. And so we really try to find a way to, I don't want to say fabricate, but I guess synthesize that onto like a website or social media where someone can feel like they get to know that person. Like April said, we are full service. So that means we do everything from branding to websites, pay-per-click, SEO, social media, and we try to be a one-stop shop for solo and small law firms.
Do you only work with law firms, or do you work with those outside the industry as well?
So we are exclusively in the legal industry. And that is because I'm actually a former attorney myself.
Got it.
So this is something that we're really passionate about. We love the legal industry. And then I think to us, the biggest challenge of our time right now is the access to justice issue. And I think it's an interesting way for us to look at how we can use our skill sets, which is the legal industry experience along with the marketing experience, to find ways to help close that in some small way. Whether that's someone looking for legal services through Google for the first time, or just learning about the law and learning about their situation and realizing that an attorney could actually help them through that situation. That's something that's really core to what we do. And so legal industry is something that we're passionate about. We also work with legal service providers too.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a law firm. We work with a nonprofit that, kind of serves the legal industry, which is super fun. I think obviously it's a little bit different, but it allows us to kind of be even more creative. Since it is a different sort of product that we're marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that really touches the legal industry, we can work with. Like Tyler was saying, we're super passionate about that. And, our plan is really to build our entire career around the legal industry and making sure that we're really providing help to those that need it. And I think we really look at our role helping law firms help their own clients. And so we keep those clients in mind when we're doing anything and everything that we do.
So does that drive like the types of firms you work with? So when you're saying like, you've got this A to J angle, which is different for like, unless I'm missing some, I haven't heard a lot of marketing firms that take that position. We've got like the idea of like old Avo that was doing, would do like online lead gen, obviously, but then they were trying to offer legal services through what they were providing. And so I had this access to justice feel, and that was, so how, does it drive the types of clients that you're working with directly in law firms?
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think, it took us a while to really hone in on that. Like, I think that's always been a part of who we are as people. And I think, this June will be 3 years that we've been in business. So anybody knows, like when you first start your business, you're really feeling everything out, like
Right.
figuring out who you are. And, I honestly think when COVID started, we just looked at each other and we were like, okay, businesses are not going to make it out of this. If we're not going to make it out of this, then we at least want to go down fighting, doing what we care about the most. And that's really when we like leaned into it even more. And I think because we're that way, I feel like we're attracting those type of clients as well that really care about giving back to their community. You know, there's a lot of attorneys out there that, you know, that's just not part of their mission, and that's totally fine. There's tons of marketing agencies out there that they can work with. But I think at the end of the day, we really want to work with people that we enjoy working with, that are really impacting their communities and the legal industry in a positive
Right.
way. Those are the types of friends that we have. That's really what we live our whole life by. So I think the fact that we're able to build a business around that is really cool and powerful, and love seeing what our clients are doing. I think they push us to do even better ourselves.
So full service, meaning, Tyler, as you were saying, like your website, SEO, social, et cetera. Can you dig in maybe a little bit deeper so that like, because it's from a law firm perspective, it's really hard to figure out like the marketing piece is not easy. None of it's easy in running a law firm, but figuring out, like, I know lots of law firms struggle with the concept of what are the best types of services to market. You're a full service agency. Some people take the position that they like to like piecemeal, kind of, for lack of a better phrase, best of breed from their vantage point. Like they think this SEO person is going to help them the best. They'll do this on their own, and they'll, their cousin will do the website, like all that, and kind of like do it that way. So maybe dig in a little bit deeper. What does it mean to work with like a full service agency?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, because a lot of small and solo law firms, what ends up happening is they become like general contractors of their marketing, and they're spending a ton of time and a ton of money pulling in all of these different professionals, which I'm sure are absolutely great. I definitely do not want to disparage the person who is like an absolute ace with SEO. But what we really bring to the table here is like a more cohesive marketing strategy. And I think we could talk about different channels all day long. You could say, well, this person has the best ClickFunnels setup. This person has the best track record with pay-per-click. But at the end of the day, like that's just one channel. And what makes one person successful is not necessarily going to make your law firm successful. A lot of times you have to take a step back and say, well, what is it about my law firm that makes me different than every other law firm? Because right now, legal services are being more commoditized. And going back to that human relationship, you really want people to connect with you on a more personal level and feel invested in that relationship. That's where those good referrals are going to come from down the road. And so when we look at like a full service agency, really what we're looking at doing is piecing together a strategy that is more bespoke for your law firm, where you can kind of delegate that off and feel like you're no longer having to put together all these different puzzle pieces. Someone's going to do that for you. With our agency, you will have a dedicated account manager that sends you reports. We'll get on the phone with you, talk through those reports with you, show you how everything's going. On the back end, we do have a dedicated team. So there are full-time employees that are dedicated to each one of these services. Of course, we'll be working with April and I and an account manager, but there is someone who you will have an opportunity to speak with on an ongoing basis who is working on those campaigns. If it was me or her handling pay-per-click or SEO, we know enough to like get things going, but it's good to have someone who's in that day-to-day, and we're not having to outsource that work, that sort of thing. That's really when we found a lot of success.
Got it. So that you've got the bench to help kind of with the different issues.
Yeah.
So,
And I think a lot of people think like, oh, I can hire someone in-house and they'll be able to do everything. And that would be amazing. But I think a lot of times, someone to do SEO and to do Google ads and to do social media and to write content, that's really hard to come by. And so, like Tyler was saying, I mean, we don't sit here and do it all. Like, we have dedicated team members, and I think we always ask them, we're
Right.
like, what do you think? Like, this is why we hired you. You're the
Right.
expert on this. This is kind of where we're coming from on this. Like, is this doable? And I think that's what's really great about our team and their experience in all of these areas.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like just from seeing, like, I mean, and a lot of like what the need is driven by like the law firm personality or owner's personality, right? Like if they, um, some people are good fits to be that general contractor. Like
Mhm.
that's just, but that can also change over time. Where maybe 1 year they're super busy with something else and don't want to take it on, but now they, so it seems like the marketing area is one of those that law firms really are fluid on, where it just changes a lot, um, and it's a hard, like, the transitions between services. It seems like, I mean, like any time, like if you move case management software, it's not a light lift, and so I see people losing a lot of time on bouncing between services because that it's a challenge to do that.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely is. And I think something else that people have to keep in mind is, what is your time worth? I think
Right.
that's something that, like, we're really having to focus in on as business owners is, you know, is this worth it to do something like
Right.
this together? We're having to really learn how to divide and conquer right now. When we joked around in the beginning about how we do everything together, we're really having to split our time that way we're able to get more things done in a day. And I mean,
Right.
you think about a law firm owner, like if they're working on their marketing, say 10 hours a week, what could you have billed in those 10 hours? And would that have generated more revenue for your firm as opposed to the maybe, I don't know, a couple $100s that you would
Right.
save hiring someone? So you just have to weigh it out. And sometimes it may be totally worth it. But I think that's something important that as any sort of business is growing that you have to really think about.
Absolutely. So something that you mentioned earlier, Tyler, about referrals and kind of thinking through that. Wanted to not forget about that. What are you seeing now? This maybe can a good transition to like pandemic chat because people love that topic still
It's
because
so fun.
right, it is. It's great. We're like, we're recording this in mid-ish February 2021, and it's not like, everything got better once the year turned around. Like we're half the country is, or more than half the country, I think, is frozen right now. I think Ted Cruz is finally off his plane and he's good now back in Texas. So like lots going on. So it's interesting because I think a lot of us can learn from each other's pandemic type experiences because it's going to keep going. And our lessons are that, as people have made adjustments and have figured out business models as a result, like you said earlier, like you went all in on this kind of access angle when you're like, screw it, if we're going down, we might as well help people. We won't earn money helping other people. I'm assuming that wasn't the theory, but um, so one thing you mentioned, Tyler, was the referral aspect of things. What are you seeing in light of like the past year? Are law firms, have you seen a shift in law firms and how they're getting work with, the connection, like personal connections changing? Um, are you seeing more digital referrals, or is it still like the best referrals are still coming from business type associates or the lawyers? What are you guys seeing on that?
I really think it depends on the practice area and the industry. For B2B lawyers, it's been very challenging because they aren't going to networking events, they aren't
Right.
going to conferences, they aren't rubbing shoulders with people, at like the local bar or what have you. So I
Right.
think for a lot of them, it has had to be more digital. And we've seen a lot of our B2B clients come to us and say like, how do we stay in touch with
Hmm.
our former clients, our current clients, our best referral sources? And so we ended up creating a whole new service, which was email marketing, something that we hadn't done before, right when COVID started, because we had like 3 clients that needed it. Um, that's really where we've seen a lot of benefit for the more digital side in place of like the more personalized referrals. I think in
Hmm.
terms of like consumers, I think the referrals are still king there. I still think that you have people who are getting injured and they're calling their parents, or they're calling their friend, or cousin who was injured in a car accident, and they're still getting referrals in that sense. I do think that people are changing the way that they, I guess, deliver like that initial service, whether that's a consultation or a phone call. A lot of people are starting to use Zoom. And I actually think that that's helping create those connections a lot sooner, because rather than talking to someone at the reception desk where maybe you don't have that face-to-face interaction with an attorney,
Right.
I think a lot of attorneys are starting to adopt new ways of communicating. And that's really helped build those relationships really quickly. And it allows them to potentially close deals a lot quicker. I think in terms of marketing, finding ways to funnel people to the front desk, or funnel people to like a calendar where they can set up a a virtual meeting, like that's really been a big challenge for us. Is how do we pivot just a little bit to where this is going to fit in with the workflow? It's not going to overburden the front desk, but it's also not going to fill up an attorney's calendar, without without preventing them from like doing the work that they need to do.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the referrals are still really, really important. I mean, for us, it's been important. Virtual conferences, staying in touch with clients throughout the month. Those are all things that really help build referrals for us. I think the same thing applies to a lot of our clients as well.
Yeah, no, I think intake is one of those topics that we could spend hours on because it's so much fun. And I know most law firms, I think, try to segment the idea of intake to say, okay, there's there's the time somebody calls, and then there's the consultation piece, but they often leave out the marketing aspect of it, which is like, I think of intake from everything from the first chance you get to like have any kind of connection with a client, i.e. looking at the website, the digital ads, whatever it is on the marketing, all the way through that engagement letter being signed and retainer being paid. And so that the importance of trying to balance that, especially like with the COVID thing, with being able to schedule easier, being able to like, for law firms to have to kind of screen, they want to be accessible, like you said, with calendar things, whether it's Acuity or Calendly or X.ai, whatever it is. Like, it's really easy to give people access, but then you spend all day on Zoom, with maybe clients that aren't qualified. So yeah, being able to have that marketing piece that's hopefully driving more qualified clients is a key part of it. So I think that part's being left out, I think, with lots of firms on the analysis, especially now when everything's all digital on this part, Zoom meetings and calendar scheduling on your own. You got to make sure that you're getting the right type of work in the door.
Absolutely. And I think that's been something that we've really tried to focus in on with our clients, and also, checking in with them and seeing, hey, how is this going? Because a lot of the things that people have had to pivot and do with COVID is a lot very new to them. And, I think really listening to our clients and what works for them, what works for someone in one market is not going to necessarily work for someone in another market. And so I think, getting that feedback and then continuing to pivot until we get it just right. I think that's important. It's not just like a check the box thing with what
Right.
we're doing here. I think it's really going to vary a little bit. So that's also been something that's been helpful as, the past year has happened.
Right. So I want to make sure that we talk about you guys in the sense that have you, I mean, you dove in on the A to J thing. So maybe that's the area, but since the pandemic, what have you seen from your business model, adjust or evolve over the past year or so?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen a lot of growth over the past year, which is so exciting. I think, I think a lot of law firms have seen that. Obviously, there's been a
Mhm.
ton that haven't seen that. And I think sometimes I have that guilt of like, oh my gosh, we're growing. Like, and I feel so bad that there's,
Survivor's guilt.
yeah, it is. It truly
That's
is.
interesting. Yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm also like, we haven't stopped. We went on like a 3-day baby moon because we're
Hmm.
adopting, and Tyler still references those like that vacation that we took. I was like, Tyler, I just like need you to know, like, this was not a vacation. This was literally 3 days that we didn't work for like the first time in a year. So let's just say
That's
It was great, but it wasn't like what
That's
I would call like a full on vacation. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think for us, really leaning into who we were was really important. I also think, we are a bi-coastal company. So Tyler and I are in Charleston, South Carolina. We actually moved here in December of 2019 from San Diego. So you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not from San Diego.
right.
It's pretty obvious. But we moved out to San Diego about 4 years ago, and that's where we met our now business partners, started the business there. And so a pretty big majority of the team is in San Diego, but moving to Charleston, our goal was to really, hopefully provide jobs being here. I think we got married here about 7 years ago. And after Tyler graduated law school, we actually tried to move here, and there was like not jobs. Like we couldn't find anything. And so for us to be able to move here and provide jobs to this incredible community has been really powerful. So we've been able to grow our team in the middle of all of this. So I think that's been really cool to see, is to, have dedicated team members.
Right.
We're all still working from home right now, which is obviously challenging, but I think a lot of people are still doing that. I think, having your entire team be virtual and training people virtually, I know has been a challenge for us, but I think our team has really done an amazing job at that. And, where we've found areas where we can improve on, we've dove in head first and tried to do that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's been, a huge thing with us, is recognizing, yes, we are in a pandemic, and yes, it's really scary to grow your team. But I think in order for us to continue to provide that quality service to our clients, we've had to do that. And it's always scary. I think anytime you hire anyone, you're like, oh gosh, like I hope we continue to see this growth. And
Right.
Tyler said it right. And he, it was one night, I was like, oh, I'm so nervous. And he was like, we have to do this to be better. And like, we just try to focus in on it that way. And with each new hire, we're like, great, like we're going to provide even better service. What can we do now with that? So,
Right.
yeah, I'm trying to think, did I leave anything out?
I think the biggest thing too for us coming from San Diego is we had such a strong office culture with the people we worked with there. And I think a lot of law firms, they were in a similar situation where it's like, how do you replicate that cultural fit online, especially when you're hiring someone virtually for the first time and training them? And so that's really been a unique challenge, but I think that it's something that we're all learning to do. And what's great about it is now we're no longer limited by geography, and we're able to open up opportunities for people all over the country to work together. And I'm talking generally, not just about us.
Right.
I think it brings so many new ideas to to every business. I think for us, the biggest thing was, how do we train new hires that come from outside the legal industry and show them the importance of what we do? And that has been, I think, one of the most rewarding aspects of the last year, because it's really reinforced our mission. But I just love talking about this stuff. It's like I could literally talk someone's ear off about like criminal justice reform for 8 hours a day. And like, I know that really has nothing to do with marketing, but in my mind it does, because I'm thinking about all of our criminal defense attorneys who are super passionate about these issues. And like, we get to be a part of that in like some small way.
Yep.
And getting someone who's new to the legal industry excited about that and watching their thought process evolve and see them exposed to new ideas, like that's something that's really fun.
Cool. So maybe what we need to do is like a part 2 on criminal justice reform for this, and we can just keep going. We'll just hit record and just see how long we can go, and then like bring in Jen, and Bucky the Moose,
Buddy.
She's probably screaming at you right now.
She probably is. And we're going to leave this in, and maybe put a link to the site in the bottom of this so that you can see the not moose named Buddy. So, but yeah, no, we should definitely do another one. And, but I really appreciate your time today and thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much,
thanks,
Chad.
Chad.
This has been great.